Now, because my sleeping pattern is currently ruined and I'm just sitting in the van all night and will have to suffer the next day without much sleep in order to correct the pattern, it's an ideal opportunity to make a few videos for the channel. So I'd like to talk about it in a very basic way, meditation. There must be hundreds of videos online about meditation, and there's all different kinds of meditation from different traditions, and they've all got a lot in common. And I'm no expert, of course, but I've been doing it for a long time and had a lot of success with it, so I've got something to say, and I can at least form, a kind of introduction to obviously the Hermetic meditation that I'm a student of. Now, I follow the training laid out by Franz Bardon, and the school that I belong to, there is I would say that the training has been embellished and perfected from what I can see from my current position, and it's been an extremely beneficial experience, and I feel very lucky, and I'm very motivated by my progress so far to carry on, and have no doubt whatsoever that I will be a member of this school my whole life. Meditation beads. The mala. Now, when I first started meditating, I didn't use beads. I would just simply sit down in a chair, close my eyes, and become super conscious of my inner world without participation, almost becoming objective, you might say, to my subjective processes, kind of, I wouldn't say forcefully. See, there's a trick. It's like you have to kind of energetic engagement is a phrase used by my teacher, which really sums this notion up. It's a kind of contradiction. It's like trying without trying. And if you're trying for a little while, it's like you've built the boat, whereby once the boat is in the water, it will just get blown around by the wind on that sea of consciousness, and you'll just be sitting in that boat, perfectly aware, without contributing to the wind and the waves, if you like. It's a metaphor that I just made that up. It's nice, isn't it? So that would be a kind of that would be the technique whereby one simply becomes super aware of one's thoughts until they quieten down, until that place of objectivity and observation becomes all pervasive, and within that quiet, peaceful attitude, one becomes a kind of just a point of concentrated awareness, like I say, without participation. And you see, when you first begin, there's going to be a lot of chatter in the mind, and you'll get swept up in that chatter. And it's not like this is ever going to stop happening, but it'll happen less over time, and you'll get better at it. You'll have good days, bad days, but the bad days will be less bad, and the good days will be really good, put it that way. There is an evolution and a balancing which takes place, whereby, you know, in the words of my teacher, the blessings of meditation are carried forward into daily life. But I'm not focusing on that specifically right now, because I'm still engaged within that process. But what I can talk about is the mechanics of the process and some of the variations. Now, there is, like I said, there is this this awareness, this point of conscious observation. That's one particular technique. Another one being simply becoming one with the breath. So whatever's going on in your mind, you just ignore it. Your concentration is fixed upon the breath. Now, in any meditation technique, the breathing that I'm aware of, the breathing is through the nose only. And you may find as you go on that the rate of breath changes. It might become really, really slow as you get deep, and it may even stop for periods of time. And my teacher has expressed the opinion that that's where the balancing takes place, and I think that's correct. There are processes going on within the psyche and the mind. This is where the changes are wrought. This is where the fine tuning is going on in the background, if you like. Another form of meditation, so we've had the awareness, we've had the focusing in on the breath, becoming one with the breath. Another method is to concentrate on one specific thought or idea. One of my favorites is a single candle flame. Now, I like to meditate with a single candle flame. I was going to say in the room, but now in my van. Incense as well, because that just enhances the joy in the breath. I'm particularly fond of rose incense. And I never paid it much attention before, but once it was highlighted to me, the little rituals and procedures that can become part of meditation that trigger in the mind that now it's time to meditate, now it's time to take this seriously, that they become psychological signals. There are all kinds of hand gestures and bits and pieces, implements that we can use, and just to get yourself into that space, and a statement of intention as well, which is something that I've been doing recently, whereby I'll usually take the beads off and I will say, I'm doing this is what I'm going to achieve, I am going to achieve it. A kind of gesture of clearing away all of the baggage of the mental baggage of daily life, that kind of thing. One can perform rituals of protection and banishment of negative influences, but that's kind of a bit complex for this video, really. So just before I begin, I will take the beads off after the statement of intent and just rub them back and forth 5 times, and to me that represents the 4 elements and the 5th. and then we begin. So once I've heard that noise, psychologically my mind is trained that this is meditation time. Just performing that now for the camera, it's difficult for me not to begin. My mind, like a bit like, you know, that sort of you know, the story where, you know, you ring the bell and the dogs start salivating because that's the dinner bell. That kind, you know, where the fuck did that come from? We've all heard that, right? It's like that. That's what you're doing. That's the psychological technique that you're applying to your own mind by going through these procedures. So there is another form of meditation, is to completely and utterly clear the mind and to remain energetically engaged in blankness, and anything that is trying to come through is just simply ignored. I wouldn't say you fixate on nothing, because trying to fixate is trying too hard, but you are just purposefully becoming blank without engaging in the thought process of I am not thinking, I'm ignoring, you know, like it's, you see, you're dealing with things that sound like contradictions. You have to find your own way with this. It's very difficult to put these things into words. Now, obviously there are technical terms, you know, within the Bardon system for these forms of meditation, and they are all they all have their particular place and usage in terms of further training and all that kind of thing. But taking them on their own, I find that the breath meditation is extremely relaxing. When you combine meditation with the body brushing and asanas and general good living, the Gestalt end result is personal evolution. Now, you're still going to mess up, but like I said, it's going to happen less, and you're going to become more conscious in daily life through that sacrifice of 1 hour a day. You sacrifice 1 hour of day to gain so much more. So personally, I find that, you know, the watching of the breath to be extremely joyous and relaxing. Now, the complete awareness of everything, you know, watching the thoughts until you can literally see, in a funny way, objectively see your mind chattering away. This has a tendency to produce laughter in me. I find it hilarious, and I think somehow this is linked with Mercury, because that's very archetypal of how we think of the god Mercury, right? This kind of laughing character, this quick and joyous, crafty fellow. There's something in that, you know, those statues of the laughing Buddhas, you know, I can see where that comes from. And once you start laughing, it's difficult to stop, and it's fine. It's a lovely, lovely feeling. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it leaves you feeling refreshed. And you see, I mean, it's like, because you know it's ridiculous and it's funny, and it's like, you know, from the outside it would seem so mad, that makes it even more funny. So, you know, it doesn't matter what way you square it, it's funny, and very beneficial. It's a good thing when that happens. And you'll find if you're going through a particularly stressful period in life, that's less likely to happen. So treasure those moments when they come. So yeah, so the breathing, joyous, watching the thoughts until they calm right down to nothing is really interesting, because it tends to produce, well, all forms of meditation that I've involved myself in tend to produce visions and words, sometimes psychic effects, sometimes a little bit of the out of body experience type thing. I remember one particular day I was meditating in my old car on a rainy day, and I found myself outside the car just above the roof watching the rain fall just for a few seconds, and the shock is enough to bring you back. I remember another particular day I was in meditation and I saw a woman like parting a curtain looking at me, and she had a particular hairstyle, and I immediately opened, this was in the vision in meditation, and I opened my eyes, and that's exactly what was going on. Across the road, someone had, was curtain twitching, like, what's that guy doing sitting in his car with his eyes closed? It's not normal. It's, you can imagine. Now, obviously there are all different kinds of techniques in terms of the way you sit, postures, all that kind of thing, and it's good to try them all. And throne posture is my favorite, and it's very easy to do here in my van. Sorry, Hermione. Very easy to do here, and I've got a lot of leg room here, and I can sit up straight, and one places the hands on the thighs, right hand as a fist, left hand flat. This is the male and the female principles. It produces a kind of an electromagnetic instrument of the body. You can see how this posture is affecting you psychologically, and no doubt physically and psychically as well, in terms of allowing and encouraging energy flow, because you're going to feel that energy as you progress. This chi, this vital force. Sometimes you might feel it kind of, going up the spine and that kind of thing. People report all different types of things, and for me it's more of a kind of an all over kind of tingly energy throughout the day. Very difficult to put into words, but I know the difference between how that feels and how things felt before. There's a marked difference. So a kind of pervading vitality, even for someone like me who's overweight. My weight goes up and down, and no doubt it'll be going down again soon, but at the moment, after all the stress of dealing with God knows what and these changes of life, I must admit I have partaken of a little bit of overindulgence. And like I said in a previous video, it's not so much about getting everything right, but about picking yourself up every time you err, you stray. So these visions, these strange words that will come, places and people, different cultures, different time periods, perhaps sometimes visions related to the landscape, whatever your particular personal religion is, and all that kind of, it's all going to be coloured by that, perhaps even influenced by any psychedelics you might have partaken in the past. I'm not someone that does that kind of thing very often, but I have done it. I know that there's a particular iridescent, multicolored quality to ayahuasca that sometimes still has its effect upon my consciousness. And the Salvia Divinorum and various other things. But I'll be honest with you, you know, I don't smoke, and no one participating in this art form should. So that means cannabis as well, because you can't just smoke cannabis sometimes and then, I mean, you know, unless it's like once every few years or something, you can't really have that in your life occasionally. People might say that, but it doesn't tend to pan out that way. So it's not going to enhance your sense of equilibrium. It's going to disrupt. I wouldn't be mixing any kind of regular drug abuse with meditation. And in terms of the wonderful psychedelic experiences and the healing processes, yeah, I've had some amazing adventures on psychedelics and some wonderful I mean, I will talk about ayahuasca in a future video, and me and Samuel Connor will talk about ayahuasca, and that is something all of its own, a true miracle, but no substitute for daily meditation. And if you were doing that every weekend or whatever, it would become a distraction. These things should be rare and precious moments, like the you know, like how we think of the Oracle of Delphi, that kind of thing, because there ain't no quick fix. It's what you produce naturally in yourself through daily practice and discipline. It kind of speaks for itself, really, that is of a higher quality than an occasional kind of quick burst. Yes, ayahuasca helped me in one particular way, quite strongly actually, but it also left me feeling over emotional, to be honest, and I can see how one might become overly dependent, or one might wish to escape into that psychedelic realm. So these things have to be once or twice a year, special occasions, timed and with a specific intention in mind. Now, right where I'm parked here, if I was to walk out into the dark across the field, up through a grove of trees, I've seen, I mean, it's full moon last night, so it's pretty much still a full moon tonight. It's quite powerful, cloudy sky, so it's quite bright. I've seen that landscape on ayahuasca, and it was a thing of beauty. And funnily enough, there was an antagonism between the spirit in the plant and the spirit of the land. Ayahuasca was almost entirely nullified in the in close proximity to the liminal space, the power site here in the landscape, because this is an ancient funerary, the home of a death goddess, this kind of thing. It doesn't gel well with this kind of brightly coloured, vivacious Amazonian goddess. The two don't get on, and the first time they were introduced to each other, or rather the death goddess, through the opening of the DMT, was able to come into the trip. Let's just say there was a bit of a bitch fight going on between the two, so I had to kind of keep those two separate. And but what the DMT did do, it allowed me to see in the most vivid and plastic way. Let's just say I knew what's going on around here in this landscape with this goddess. I've known this is real for a very long time, but it hit me like a ton of bricks in terms of being able to see her hand holding my hand, with the mind's eye, but in such perfect clarity. And I mean, I'll talk about this in the ayahuasca video, but what I'm getting at here is a kind of antagonistic incompatibility between meditation and psychedelics. Yes, I've taken acid in my youth. I've never meditated on acid, but I wouldn't want to. It's too intense. It's too much. Psychedelics have their place, and that should be very seldom. And I mean, like, if I make a video like this, it's like, is this gonna be like, do I have to say, I am not telling anyone, I'm telling people not, and I actually am telling people not to take psychedelics, but you'll do whatever the fuck you want to do. In all honesty, I think you could gain much, much more through consistent daily meditation, and my advice to anyone would be to stick with that. But me being a bit of a sod, I've had to taste everything, and it was an amazing experience, and that's why I feel that I'm able to express that opinion through direct experience. So how could I possibly deny anyone else that kind of direct experience? It's up to you, but I'm telling you, it's a bit too much for. It should not be regular. It's I'd say forget about that for the most part. Just if you want to be in contact with higher forces and the spirit world and all that kind of thing, meditation, daily meditation discipline is your number one recourse to generating that connection and having it stable and permanent, as opposed to all of a sudden like wham bam, fuck, what the fuck, and then back down again. That's that kind of should speak for itself. But anyway, engaging in twice daily meditation is the best thing you can do with your life, in my opinion. And this art and this practice is the most beautiful, wonderful thing you can do with your life. And you know, I expressed that opinion before I heard anyone else say it in similar words, actually, so I think that says something. Now, in terms of using beads, obviously you put this on your, as a right-handed person, I'll put this on my right knee, and you know, you would work through there's 108 beads. This is kind of, tradition. I'm sure that every culture would have been used. I'm sure that the ancient druids would have been using beads, as obviously, because the Indo-European line is similar to the Hindu religious practices, etc. So it doesn't feel alien for me to be using these beads. I think a lot of things that we associate with specific cultures were much more widespread. They all go back to a kind of perennial, a kind of, if you like, this perennial tradition of there being an inward journey in order to create an inner balancing and evolution as we learn to become better people, and we evolve and we align ourselves with particular outside factors and intelligences, if you like, obviously coming from that kind of druidic / hermetic kind of angle there. Obviously we can't open up that can of worms. Obviously you don't. I think if you're that way inclined, as you meditate, things are going to happen. Yeah, I mean, if you have that capacity within you, as you begin to meditate, you will attract other spiritual entities, creatures, whatever you want to call them. So obviously, in terms of magic, we have particular techniques of interacting with these beings